Before we dive into today's episode, I have something truly special to share. Next September, I'll be leading an intimate women's retreat through the south of France and northern Italy, and you're invited. Picture this: mornings exploring the colorful markets of the French Riviera, afternoons sipping wine, and a hotel view with golden Mediterranean sunsets. Whether you love photography, food, or just want to reconnect with your playful creative self, this trip is designed for you. Spots are limited, so if all this sounds like your kind of adventure, please visit tourwithabsolutely.com and look for the tour France and Italy with Crystal. You can also send me a message or check out the show notes. Hey guys, my name's Crystal Kenny, and I'm in love with creating. All things artistic and imagination involved. I'm an American girl who chased her creative dreams all the way to Paris, France, making a living using photography. This podcast takes you inside the stories of all the artsy folks I've met along the way and gives you that extra push to discover your creative gifts. The desire to create is deeply inside each and every one of us, and I give you the tools and inspiration to find a new way of living a more creative life. This is La Vie Creative, the podcast. So welcome to the show, Sheila. How are you today?
Oh, I'm so wonderful. And thank you so much for inviting me.
It was so nice to have a little catch up before we hit the record button. I mean, you are an adventurous soul. You moved here in the 80s. You sold your car. You just went for it. Tell us more about that time in your life. What made you think, okay, I'm just going to move to France?
Gosh, it's a weird thing because it's not like I'd ever really planned it or contemplated such a thing. But I attempted modeling when I was very young. I was too short, so it never went anywhere. But I met a photographer one time in somewhere in Southern California. And he suggested, I don't know, I just went. It was so strange. It wasn't like I had some big drive, but I ended up staying over there for quite some time. And the first place I landed was in Milan. And I remember having a really wonderful conversation with who is now Simon Le Bon from Duran Duran's wife, Yasmin, there in the Hotel Greedy. So it was just a very interesting, exciting time. It was the 80s. So it was a great time to be riding trains around Europe.
Yeah, and much cheaper and just adventurous. And I love that. I mean, what a time to be in Europe. And you've had a rich journey filled with various art forms. You've done painting, jewelry making, and now art quilting. What drew you to each of those mediums?
It's very interesting. I mean, as a child, I think I feel I never lost that desire to just express. And when I was really young, I would have these little imaginary beings that I would draw and cut out like paper dolls. And I remember when I was in Catholic school getting in trouble because I'd be playing with these little, beings on my desk or whatever. I was just so bored with school and, being penalized for that type of thing. So I never stopped. And that's the thing. I feel like a lot of people, they stop, right? All children, they draw, they express. It's a natural thing in every human, I feel, to do something in that way. But I just kept going with it.
Definitely. And I think that's what it's all about. What the show is about is reconnecting to that inner child.
Yes. And when I was actually in Europe as we talked a little bit about that before we were live, I had a vision. So when I was 19 and traveling around in Italy, France, Belgium, at some point I had a vision of my future paintings. And I just saw them. It was so weird, but they started coming probably when I was, I guess maybe around 1989, they began to come and they were very large and these paintings were very magical. Like I had that breakthrough creative moment during that period of my life. And I'll never forget it. And it was one night, basically, I put my kids, because I was a single mom. I was married young. When I came back from Europe, I got married, had two little boys. They're a year and a day apart. They're 37 and 38 now, which is totally bizarre. But in those days, I'd put them to bed early and then I'd be painting. And this one night, I started a painting on a black poster board and I was using only lavender and yellow. And I started doing these geometric shapes and it just felt too constrained. And something took over and I just took the brush and this is just terrible. And I just started putting the brush, I didn't want to throw the paint away. I was like, let me just get the paint on this poster board, right? That was my goal. But something took over and then I stood back and the whole thing was full and I saw something. It wasn't just like random. I saw something and I knew it. And I knew at that moment that when you open yourself up truly and just let go of having any agenda, then magical things can come through you. And in this particular piece, with the weird colors and that dark background, it reminded me of my favorite childhood Saturday morning TV show for kids called Land of the Lost. It was all about dinosaurs and prehistoric things, and I'm all into that. And there was this portal in the jungle in this little Saturday morning show. I basically painted that, like the Sleestack portal in the jungle with the path, the trees. I mean, it kind of freaked me out. So I would say that was a pivotal moment. That was the moment when I was set free creatively. And that translates to all forms of art that I create.
I love that. Yeah. How many people can say they've had, such a pivotal moment and just like this vision, as you say, like it's pretty wild that it led you where you are today in the south of France, just soaking up that sunshine, working on your art.
Yeah. And how I ended up there, well, that was, that wasn't planned. I didn't let me go to Paris or go to France to work on my art. No, that's not how I arrived there. I had an exhibition of my work at a small village in Loris in Provence. And after being there for a month, something happened and I returned 2 months later. But what it took for me to return was quite a bit because I left a lot. And it was like setting off an atom bomb over here to follow my heart. I didn't know why I was going. I went. And when you're a lot older, look, I wasn't 19. So it's more risky.
Yeah. Bigger risk, bigger rewards.
Yes.
And how did you find the confidence and the bravery to do it? I mean, I'm sure in your head there were so many things going on.
Not so much. See, I'm a strange person. I'm just different. And I just feel like I came into this world knowing that I'm going to do and I'm going to experience. And that is more important to me than like a fear. I have more of, I guess if there's any fear, it's of me not fulfilling my heart's desire, not experiencing or allowing fear to keep me from going to the next level artistically and personally in life, evolving as a human in general. I mean, fear. It's just being stuck in your head.
Yeah, you go in these fear circles and it traps you. It traps so many of us.
Yes.
So your work showcases a love for both nature and the energy of urban life. Can you talk about these contrasting sources of inspiration, how they manifest in your art, and how do you balance those themes?
Yeah, interesting question. So I would say that the bustling city life, that no longer interests me anymore, but that's where I was. So when I'm young, right, I'm living in Los Angeles. That's where I grew up, hanging out in Hollywood, right? The strip, the clubs, the this, the that. I'm into driving. That's where Zoom Baby came from, my alter ego, because I've always had this speedy, drivey, intense aspect to my personality, but there's an innocence. That's the part, the nature loving, soft side of me. And they lived harmoniously my whole life. now I would say, as I am older and just turned 60, which I was very excited about in January, I am more to the nature side because I feel that's more natural. And that is really why I moved to where I live now and away from the city. So yeah, that duality, uh, it's in all of us. I think, part of it's, well, where'd you grow up? Where were you? But really my heart is with nature, with the natural world. And so there's really, uh, no blend. I don't know how to word it, but there's no mix happening now. I mean, I've gone to that direction.
Yeah, we're not mixing the urban life. We are all about the nature.
Yes.
And talk about your art quilting. What does that look like for listeners who don't know what art quilting is? What is it, and how you entered that realm of art?
Yeah, that's a very good question because as an artist, as a painter, as a creator all of my life, I didn't know about art quilting. I knew quilts. My mom was a quilter. I know what everybody else knows, quilt on the bed. But that changed in 2009. So the only reason I even got into the quilting arts was for charity. It was a call to service. And I joined this organization called Project Linus, which is a lot of quilters and grandmas that are retired that get together and make quilts and donate them to babies in the hospital or children, people in need in various situations. And I joined this group, surprisingly. A little voice actually nudged me to join them. So I began making quilts just to donate. So for that first year, I think I made 36, and that's how I learned. But I was still painting, doing other things. And I was actually working as an architectural photographer at that time. But something about it just took me over. And I became obsessed before I thought about the artistic aspect of quilt making. I found the process to be very, very enjoyable and relaxing. And there's something symbolic about putting lots of different pieces together to make something whole. And I think that's what appealed to me initially. And then I discovered the artistic aspect. And in 2010, I created my first quilt as art with no plan, no pattern, because I was comfortable with that from my days of just hitting a blank canvas and painting. So that's how I got into it. And honestly, I always hid myself as an artist. So as a painter, I really never was inspired to put my work out there so much. But with the quilting, it was different. And I would say that it's mostly female dominated, very supportive, loving. We share with each other. It's this insulated, wonderful community that is so vast. You can't even imagine. It is so vast as far as the styles. I paint with using thickened dye. I do all sorts of different techniques, but using fabric. But what is a canvas? It's cotton, stretch cotton. So I'm just working with fiber in a different way.
I love that. That's really beautiful. And talk about what that process looks like. Do you know what you're going to paint before you start?
Well, okay, so I have 3 different ways that I make my quilts. And my favorite way is improvisational piecing. That's what I'm most known for, actually. I'm not known for my painted quilts. That's kind of the way that I actually work. The process of painting is something that is a lot easier when it comes to the quilt making process for me because there's no engineering required. Whereas with improv piecing, there's no plan, there's no idea. For me, I have no sketch. So I'm just leaping in. I choose my colors, I choose my palette, but then who knows what's going to come through. And I love what Bob Ross says, if any Bob Ross fans, right? with his YouTube channel, I watch this a lot in the evenings just to relax, is happy accidents. Happy accidents. And that's what can happen with improv. And I find that exciting because it's something that I couldn't think of. Our thinking is limited. Therefore, you want to tap into the deeper, the endless, bottomless pit of creativity that you have access to, and it does not come from your brain or your mind.
I love that. And how do you know when a piece is finished?
For me, it's going to be different for everyone, but for me, I just know. So if it's quilt related, right? If it's a quilt that I'm doing, it's about corners. It takes me months to finish a top. So that's the first layer of a quilt. There's 3 layers. So the top, I could be working months because my designs are complicated and it's curved piecing and it's complicated what I do. It's a lot harder than painting. And unfortunately, it doesn't get the artistic respect that paintings do simply because of the fact that it's a quilt or that it's fiber art or something stemming from quilting. But it's much, much harder, much, much harder. And actually now I've gotten into painting again. So I'm coming full circle as an artist, as a creator. And recently I've been not painting on fabric, but painting on paper and canvas. So it's interesting how all these things I've ever done, I'm working with ceramics, with clay, making these little medallions like I used to make jewelry a long time ago. Like there's so many things. There's just not enough time in the day. I'm one of these people, right? Not enough time in the day, not enough Sheilas around to do the things I want to do. So it's my joy. It quiets the mind. I don't care what I'm doing. I could be out creating my garden, right? So when you think of creation, it's not just painting or doing this or doing that. It's something new where you're in the zone. You're just presently really, okay, what are the possibilities here? Let's explore this. Let's explore that. Being open, fluid, and not rigid, for me personally, yields the best results.
And you mentioned earlier about how you didn't really share your work before. Like, what changed? How were you able to open your work to the world?
It was the quilting community and the nurturing aspect of it snuck up on me. If you could put it that way, snuck up on me, because then I entered my very first quilting show and then another one. And I was exposing my work. But what happened is that the first really, really big show that I entered, my 3 of my works were accepted. And one of them won a prize that was a big prize that put me in the spotlight. And I remember that evening at the hotel, because this was at a show in Texas. I was with my husband at the time, sitting at the table, and I just cried. I was crying. It was too much, right? But that was something. Like there was a part of me that had literally actively been kind of hiding myself. And now that wasn't the case. And it was almost like there was a mourning or a releasing or something that happened with that. I know it sounds strange, but that quilting has changed my life because it gave me a safe environment to share that was nurturing and more heart-based than what I had observed prior to that or in other mediums and it just was my observations. I could be wrong, but that was my feeling about it. Now I would expose anywhere, go into anything. I'm not even that same Sheila. I'm like 10, 15, 20 Sheilas ahead of that one that I was back then. So none of those concerns are an issue for me at this time in my life, but I'm so grateful for taking that first step.
Definitely. It sounds very meditative and healing for you, this medium.
Oh, yeah, I consider it to be sacred. For me, the art of creation is sacred. And it's my special work that, yeah, there are things that come through just for me with the things that I make. With those paintings, those early paintings, with my quilts, the quilts are so challenging. And what I've realized is that often, as I was seeing them come through in my mind, I would use my hands like a conductor of an orchestra to bring out what I was seeing in my mind, like music. So it's very musical to me, the dance of creation.
I love it. And where do you think creation comes from? I mean, there's been books written about this. I talked to my guest about this. Like, is it all you? Is it your experiences? Is it coming through somewhere you don't even understand? Is it a collective spirit? What do you think?
Well, I have pretty deep feelings about things, right? And I don't know how far to go down that wormhole in this podcast. However, I feel it can come from different places depending on the person. I mean, there are some people that, create from more of an intellectual space, and that's more the mind, right? That's the mind. But I create from more of an expressive state from my heart. That means I'm feeling and I'm expressing what I'm feeling. You see, it's different than in the mind when you're expressing what's in your body. And that's why I feel that my hands move, my body would move as I would start to see things. I would orchestrate them out in my hand. So creativity, true creativity, you cannot say where it comes from, right? It comes from the ethers. It comes from the real you, right? The bigger you. And my very first quilting class ever was titled, I still teach this one. It's actually coming up next month. Express your true self, one piece at a time. And that is where I feel. Now, everything we see gets lodged in our, I like to say biocomputer memory, everything we've ever experienced. So when during a period of when you want to be creative, I want to make something, and you don't have a plan, well, you're pulling from everything you've ever done and seen. It's in there, right? It's there. There's no exceptions. But people block their flow. They block access because they want to control everything. And they want it to be this and then da-da-dee. And it's like, okay, then it'll be just that and no more. But when you open yourself to the possibilities, the more can surprise you. And I like to be surprised. I want to be surprised when I create something, right? I love that.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. And like, what are some steps that we could take today to be more open to that? Because I think we've been brainwashed through, being adults in society and control. I mean, as children, we were so free. Like, how do we get back to that?
Yeah, it's true. One thing that made it easier for me is my personality, I will say, because I wasn't a conformist. Now, I was actually adopted, and I arrived with my angelic parents at about 6 or 7 months old. Prior to that, I was who knows what, okay? And I came from different seed, different genetics, different personality. My parents, angelic, sweet, from New Orleans. They were Creole. Just boy, oh boy, I honor them. I honor them so much for holding me and allowing me to express, to be, to not conform. But I bucked. I fought. I was my mouth. I'd be sassy. I wasn't an easy child, but I really needed that to keep from being broken from what you're saying. Because I could see it happening, and I pushed it. I resisted. I fought it off as the best I could with my little sword, like Joan of Arc, to hold on to the part of me that I came in here with. that everybody else, and society outside, it's completely dysfunctional. I'm sorry, it is. And you need only look around the world now. And you can see that. So if people are not going off their inner compass, the inner guide that we all have, then look, then you're at the whim of what's happening outside, artistically and every other thing. But when you go deeper in, then you are bringing out something that may actually be helpful for the world and those around you. Most people are not thinking about this sort of thing, but soon they may, right? Because we all just want to feel like peace and at ease in our bodies with ourselves. And I will say this, a great way to jump and to start is doodling. Doodling. The word is not a good word because it doesn't do justice to what happens when you are doing that. But that is a great way to free yourself. And I'm not talking about Zentangles or somebody's format of doodling. And even just taking some canvases, watercolor, any kind of paper, buying some cheap acrylic paints and just moving paint around. You see, if you can pick a medium that you're not feeling so precious about, then you can try to practice to free yourself and not have a plan. And then start to look at pattern recognition, because that's what it's all about, starting to recognize patterns that you see out and about, right? Pulling them into your work and then actually recognizing them when you see them and then making conscious decisions about what you draw and what you create. So I feel doodling, painting, mixed media, anything, something that's cheap. You don't care about wasting, because with quilting, fabric is expensive and it's very time consuming. So it might be good just in general to just flex your wings in another way, because for me, I create in all sorts of mediums. I'm not a fiber artist. I'm an artist. I am a creator that can create anything I choose at any moment. So it might be ceramics or this or that or whatever. So
yeah, you're tapping into that inner joy, that inner flow, and it can come out in any form at this point.
absolutely, absolutely. And some people are too strict with what their medium is. And I feel expanding into different mediums to play and see, you might surprise yourself. You might find that just by trying different materials, a different medium, a different way, a different starting point, that it may yield new results that excite you and send you on another path. This is what I try to impart in my workshops. And it's hard because people have to let go of a lifetime of accumulation of self-judgment and all this type of thing.
And how would you define creativity in your own words?
Freedom and joy. And I don't know. It's just fun. I would say I just love it. I love it. I can't imagine not. I love watching other people create, cooking shows, whatever, anything. So there's no one word. It's too vast. It's so special. And I wish for everyone to experience the joy of creating something, anything that feels natural and really speaks to them.
Well, I think that is a beautiful note to end on. And where can people connect with your work and learn more about you?
Well, I will admit, I'm not so good on social media, and I don't really, everybody says, oh, you got to do this or that, or I don't do those things because I'm just not interested. So, but I love my teaching. And so if you would love to follow me on Instagram, it's just my whole name on Instagram. On my website, where I have all of my workshops that I teach virtually, And I have on-demand workshops. That's Fiber Art Workshops, plural, .art. And then zoombaby.com is where a lot of my fiber art lives. But I must admit, there's a lot of work that is not on that site. I'm just not the person who's all on it from that aspect, but I'm on it for giving in my heart and for creating, and the other stuff, well, I do my best.
Well, I think that's great. It's good to take a break from our screens and just get into our art. And thank you so much for sharing today. We'll share all that in the show notes.
Thank you so much. And it was such a pleasure to talk to you, Crystal.
Thanks so much for tuning in to La Vie Creative. You can find more information on MissParisPhoto.com. And if you enjoyed this show, please feel free to share and spread the word for all my creative guests. We have the power to help them to keep doing what they love. See you next time.